My uncle worked in an insane asylum, Part 3. My uncle and I are again so blown away by the response to this thread. Mental illness is a very real thing, and many people are currently being treated. It is estimated that over a quarter of the United States is dealing with some form of mental illness. That means 1 in 4 of the people you know may be dealing with some form of depression, bipolar disorder, or other various mental disorders. Please consider donating to a reputable charity in order to help combat this. One of the most unnerving crazies was one we called the Rocker. This was in 1965 when, during my first few years, some mentally ill people tend to rock back and forth pretty often, especially after therapy. The Rocker, though, was called the Rocker because when he got 1 ounce of stress in his blood, he would freeze like a statue. In the kitchen one day, I was 2 years in and still feeling hopeful that the kitchen would help all these guys recover and be normal again. Even the more insane ones like the Rocker. The Rocker started grabbing red pepper flakes and tossing them in random dishes. This was making the others kind of mad and the stress level went up. I told the Rocker to stop and go sit down. That's when he literally froze. I've never seen anything living freeze like that. All of a sudden, he started breathing again, but he was still frozen. His eyes stone cold staring at me. I wondered if he was conscious. The nurses came in and picked him up, completely frozen, and moved him to an area away from the others. I walked over to one and asked her what the hell just happened. She said that the shock therapy had messed up his nerves so bad that when he was stressed he just acts like he's getting shocked. He tenses up, doesn't breathe and passes out, but his nerves still fire and he gets stuck until he wakes back up and his nerves calm. This freaked me out. I asked the nurses, how in the world can you deal with a person who every time he gets stressed freezes up? They told him that I couldn't tell him he was doing anything wrong. That went against everything in me. How are you going to teach an insane person how to recover if you baby them? I told them that I didn't think he was cut out for the program if he couldn't follow the rules and couldn't handle being reprimanded. Looking back, I feel like I was being such a dick. But I was new and had this idea that the mentally ill could somehow be cured with a mix of kindness and discipline. I, like a fool, talked to his doctor about moving him to a different therapy. This is how the conversation went. Doctor, I think you need to switch his therapy. He freezes up whenever he gets stressed. You conditioned him. Isn't there something else we can do for him? The doctor was looking at a file. He didn't put it down and he just kept reading and said, Bill, do you even know why he is here? Do you know why we are still treating him? I paused and I realized I wasn't the doctor. It kind of hit home. I was in this doctor's office telling him how to do his job and thinking he would listen to me. No, I'm sorry, He cut me off. This man, who was, keyword was, a psychopath. He was able to look around a room, locate all the exits and weapons, who was able to take him, who was able to hurt him, who he could kill first in a matter of seconds. So we conditioned him to freeze up during stress, and now he is cured. I understand if you don't want him in class, but we can't switch his therapy. I don't want him going back to his killer instincts. The therapy is working. I looked at him with wide eyes. It was like he knew it was wrong, but didn't want to admit it because the guy wasn't hurting anyone. With all due respect, he's not cured. He's a psychopath who seizes up every time he thinks the word kill. The doctor put down his folder. What do you want me to do, Bill? He killed. and killed and killed. Finally, they caught him. So he was sent here to be cured and monitored. I was getting so angry, but I didn't want to lose my job and I wisely shut up. It's a success story, Bill. We are able to turn monsters away from killing. If we can perfect it without seizing, we might put prisons out of business. Just relax. I was so furious at this point. Relax. Relax. How did he get off taking crazy people and numbing their minds to mush just to save them? The story's not over, though. The next day, I asked to talk with the rocker. I told the nurses I was going to apologize and let him know it wasn't him I was angry at, just the situation. I was young, so naive I went in and sat on his bed with him. He just looked over at me, and his eyes began to twitch, a look of anger coming across his face. Listen, I know you're getting therapy. I just want you to know that I understand that you are mentally cognizant, and I just wanted to apologize for earlier. I looked at him, his eyes. His hands moved to my throat with lightning speed, and he seized his fingers around my neck. I could not breathe. I tried to yell, but I couldn't, so I just started gurgling on my own spit. I thought, my God, I'm going to die right here in this fucking cell. I saw in his eyes anger, hate. In came the nurses. I started seeing stars. I started fading. I saw them trying to move his arms, but they couldn't. And then everything went black. I woke up lying in a hospital bed with a huge gash in my arm sewn up. I asked what had happened, and the nurses said the rocker couldn't physically let go. So one of the nurses ran and grabbed the fire axe and she cut the guy's hands off. In the frantic rush, he also sliced through and got me in the arm. When I got back 2 weeks later, I found him walking the halls with no hands. When he saw me, he seized up. It was at this point they realized they couldn't let him be here anymore. He was too stressed out by seeing me, so they moved him to another asylum. That was the day I learned never to assume a psychopath is safe. Even after he's had therapy, I saw in his eyes hate. I wasn't sure if it was for me or the system. Was that guy a monster? No, but he did kill people. It was our job to turn them back into people again. Shock therapy wasn't making him less of a psychopath. It was making him a tame psychopath. I know it sounds like I'm saying he's an animal, but I'm not sure how else to put it. He killed without remorse. I don't know what to call that. But I still had hope for him, and I suppose I still do. Just from a distance. The one thing I could never figure out is why the rocker put the red pepper flakes in the food. I just have to wonder if he realized it was the only way he could cause pain to people without causing stress to himself. Since he wouldn't talk, I probably will never know. I think if I was to go into his head, his thoughts would be, fuck this place. Fuck these people. Fuck this life. And that, Vincent, is a dangerous place to be in. Psychopaths are very different from people like the mumbler. They are so sick we don't even know how to fix them. The mumbler can be talked to. He can be told not to listen to the voices, even medicated. A psychopath just does, without feeling or emotion. He would have killed me and not thought of why. He doesn't count his killers because he probably doesn't remember them, nor does he care. I wish I knew how to help those people.